Hey then everyone, it's Juan Romero here from SwitchWatch. Today we've got the review of Owlboy provided to us by Dpad Studio, so thank you to those guys and thank you for watching. Let's get into the review to see whether this is worth your hard-earned cash. Let's get into it. Otus, our protagonist, is a mute owl and is not treated in the nicest way by his mentor Azio, who is very strict. He's not trusted with meaningful tasks for the town, and the villagers consider him an unworthy successor to his owl's heritage. Owlboy then is not your traditional kind of hero. Instead, Owlboy has his close friend in Geddy, who always has his back, and you meet more companions along the way. And it's those relationships that you forge with those companions that makes this adventure so satisfying. The story builds quite nicely throughout in the game, and these companions all come together to form a great team, which is needed to eventually help your village against the evil pirate villain. I enjoyed the story a lot and felt that it really added depth to the overall experience of the game. I enjoyed the fact that Otus is not your traditional hero but is in fact flawed. He'd not be able to complete this mammoth task facing him alone, and it's that emotional connection that you form with the characters throughout the game that gets you more invested into it. Though your companions all come together to help Otus on this treacherous adventure, it's how they come together that really makes you feel for them in the end. The musical score here was created by Jonathan Gear, and it's absolutely majestic. Jonathan has created some wonderful pieces of music for this game, which is engaging, heartwarming, atmospheric, and is just the perfect accompaniment to match the wonderful pixel art visuals. Instruments such as the flute, clarinet, violins, bass and cello are all present here, and if I'd just been to the theatre here in London, it's the type of music I would come to expect from one of the great shows. That's how the game expresses itself through the music to you, the player. For example, when you find Geddy, everything is more upbeat all of a sudden, or when you take flight for the first time by yourself to explore, it makes you want to explore even more. It just all feels like everything's just right. It's what this game needed, as there's no voice acting, just the text on screen between characters. Another highlight is when you go into a shop and that typical type of mall music plays. It's kind of so predictable, but it just felt so right. It's absolutely wonderful stuff, and if this is your thing, I would suggest checking out jonathangear.com to check out his discography, or going straight to Bandcamp where you can buy the digital album. I'll put the links down below. Now, this is certainly a composer I'd have no hesitation in supporting. The Tropos day track is stunning and well worth a listen away from the game with some good headphones if you can. The sound effects all sound great, adding to the already excellent musical score, from Otus flying and hearing the flap of his wings to when he lets out a little screech when he gets hurt. When you find a secret, it has that little Zelda sound effect vibe going on, and collecting coins makes that nice little cha-ching sound, and when opening a gate you get that sturdy mechanical sound. All very good indeed, and the sound department is where Owlboy really excels. Visually, this game is described as a love letter to pixel art, which by the way was 10 years in the making. And it shows through here. Even though this was released a year ago on PC, the visuals still stand the test of time today. In my opinion, they're beautiful. The characters are drawn and expressed superbly well through their animation, but it's the levels themselves which are a real standout. The detail in the backgrounds is absolutely beautiful. Simon Anderson worked on the game since day one, and in that 10-year period, it's kind of ironic how we've seen pixel art games from being a pretty new and interesting idea to becoming popular, and ultimately now we see a lot of them. But the art style here certainly still stands out in this game, and it's 2D where you can move up, sideways and down, which all feels still pretty unique, especially when you add in flight. Now each area looks quite different from the last. You can expect your molten areas, your lush green jungles, Tropos and Stratos are beautiful to fly around and explore. You have your caves in Vili, ice areas, and wonderful pirate ship to explore as well. Now, we've seen these categories of areas in many types of these adventure games before, but here they are wonderfully depicted. Now, this game looks great in handheld mode as well, but I did notice a little bit of slowdown both in docked mode and handheld, and some dropped frames from time to time. This was especially prevalent and noticeable in boss battles such as the giant worm. Now, this is an adventure exploration game, but with lots of flight and a little bit of platforming. It's rather different to your traditional platformers though that you may have been used to playing. It's all rather charming, and remembering that you can fly to most platforms does take a little bit of getting used to, but it's certainly really enjoyable. Now, Otus only has the ability to fly, spin and roll because of his special cape. His moves do not change. Now, from what we know about Otus and his start to the story, this would make sense, as we wouldn't all of a sudden expect him to have extraordinary abilities. Instead, here you meet a bunch of companions along the way, and by working together with those companions, this will allow you to then accomplish certain tasks throughout your adventure. When you meet Geddy, for example, you can pick him up and fly him around and use his short-ranged weapon to shoot enemies, which certainly makes things easier. I find it hilarious though that you can drop Geddy from any height at any time without consequence. One would have thought that he would drop to his death, and if it were not for the game's charm, I may have been a little bit more critical here. Now, there's no doubt that Geddy is one of the main characters and does most of Otus's talking for him. The brilliant thing here is you can access each character that you meet when you need them simply by cycling through by pressing L and R. In flight mode, or if walking, they will appear next to you, but you won't be able to control the character's move until you're in flight. Once paired up with one of these characters, you can activate their moves by pressing the ZR shoulder button, and ZL will be used to drop them. Now, meeting Alphonse offers you the option to have a powerful shot, and the shot from the pirate's gun is useful because it can burn away prickly vines, for example, and allow you access to previously inaccessible areas. And when you meet Twig, your companion roster is complete. Twig gives you the ability to pull through strong winds and shoots a web, leaving enemies paralysed, which is handy to take down enemies from further away or to move through a certain area really quickly. Now, the puzzles here that you come across aren't that difficult to solve, and neither is the adventure overall, which is going to take you around 8 or so hours. There's a lot of fun to be had exploring though. Collecting trinkets, coins usually from chests, can be used to purchase those trinkets, which in turn give you upgrades in the form of extra health. Now, golden discs, of which there are 3, must be found and placed in a certain area to open up the ancient sanctuary. You can possibly add another 5 hours or so to amass all of the collectibles in this game. Now, controlling Otus is simple. You use B to roll, A to jump, and double tap A to enter flight mode. It can get a little bit more complicated and finicky when you're paired up with one of the characters or companions, but have to pick up a vegetable, for example, to increase your health. Often I'd end up dropping one of my paired characters next to the vegetable by accident, and when I'd want to pick up the vegetable, I'd end up picking the character up instead, much to my annoyance. Other than that though, everything works really well. Flying around takes away quite a few of the platforming that you might expect in a game like this, but for me, I enjoyed the change up. There are still parts where you have to jump around to platforms such as in waterfalls where you can't fly, and other parts such as tight tunnels later in the game. Flying is not always 100% of the time. Now, Otus has his own moves such as the spin and roll, and you may need to use these from time to time. Enemies range from jumping monkeys, pirates, and flying bombs with sensors. There's quite a few boss battles throughout this adventure which I enjoyed. They're quite imaginative, and each one required you to figure out how to beat the boss, kind of like a mini puzzle in a way, whether it's just blasting them in a certain area or having to make an escape. In terms of challenge, the game is not that demanding, to be fair. It's more about getting through the experience. There are some difficulty spikes, of course, especially with some of the bosses, but most players will get through this after a few tries without much hardship. The latter part of the game is a little bit more difficult, but it's not as challenging as, say, the recent Celeste, which for most will be just fine. Owlboy comes in at $24.99 or £18.99 in the UK, which for an indie game is on the higher region of the price scale. Be aware that there should be a day one patch to sort out many of the bugs the game currently has and is awaiting Nintendo certification. The patch should resolve many of the problems the review copies had within them. There are some game-breaking bugs, unfortunately, such as the game unexpectedly crashing, transparency issues, and times where you just have to restart due to being unable to see the screen. Now, obviously, if these issues are still present upon release, then the game is quite difficult to recommend until these technical issues are sorted out, especially at this price point. If, however, it's all fixed with the patch, then ignore what I've just said. Owlboy is the same price on Steam right now, and from what I can see, you're getting a game which is fantastic companion on the move and a brilliant little adventure. So in terms of my verdict, Owlboy is a game which evokes many emotions due to its fabulous musical score, inviting visuals, and is a story which gets better with time as you get to know the characters. It's not the biggest challenge you'll ever face, and most will be able to complete the game without issue. The key here though is the experience, and on that count, this delivers and should be in everyone's collection. An 8.5 from me then, out of 10. Guys, thank you for your time today. Really do appreciate you watching our videos. If you enjoyed them, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. Of course, if you're a new watcher, you haven't seen one of our reviews before, then we've got over 100 of them on our channel, so please consider subscribing for more reviews like this one. Lastly, why not leave me a comment down below? There is a physical edition of this game coming out in May. You're going to hold off till then, or are you going to buy the digital download copy straight away? Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to reply to you. My name's Juan Romero from SwitchWatch. You know what I'm going to say, guys. I'll see you on the next one.